Some people see her as a refreshing personality who isn't afraid to speak her mind, while others believe her on-course antics and blunt remarks are crossing the line. And over the years, she's been at the center of countless debates, whether it's for throwing clubs in frustration, speaking candidly about her rivals, or getting into public disputes. But what's really behind the headlines? What's driving this fearless competitor to push the boundaries in a sport often seen as the epitome of restraint and calm? And here's the question that matters most. Is she misunderstood, or is she deliberately stirring the pot? In this video, we're diving deep into Charley Hull's controversies, exploring the moments that have divided fans and critics alike. By the end, you might just have a different opinion of one of golf's most polarizing figures. Charley Hull burst onto the professional golf scene as a teenager, instantly captivating audiences with her natural talent and bold approach to the game. Born in Kettering, England, Hull showed a love for golf early on, becoming the youngest competitor to participate in the Solheim Cup at just 17 years old. By then, it was already clear that Hull was no ordinary golfer. She had a flair for the dramatic, both in her game and her personality. Hull wasn't just competing, she was winning, and doing it in a way that defied traditional expectations of what a young female golfer should be. Her skill was undeniable. She became the youngest ever player to win a professional tour event on the Ladies European Tour in 2014 when she triumphed at the Lalla Merriam Cup. But for all the records and accomplishments, it wasn't just Hull's talent that got people talking. Her behavior both on and off the course quickly caught the public's attention. She was blunt, unapologetic, and often did things that raised eyebrows in the buttoned-up world of professional golf. To some, that was refreshing, a sign of a new generation willing to challenge the old ways. But to others, it was the start of a pattern that would see Hull become one of the sport's most divisive figures. What really makes Charley Hull stand out, though, isn't just her impressive record or fearless attitude. It's the fact that she's never been afraid to be herself. Whether she's smashing drives down the fairway or offering a brutally honest opinion in a post-match interview, Hull is unfiltered in a sport where many athletes choose their words carefully. And while this has made her a fan favorite to many, it's also sparked controversies that have followed her throughout her career. But where did it all begin? Let's take a look at some of the early moments that marked Charley Hull's rise as one of the most talked about figures in golf. Hull's career was barely off the ground before she found herself in the middle of her first public controversy. In 2013, she skipped her high school prom to play in the Solheim Cup, but it wasn't the choice itself that caught people's attention. It was her response when asked about it. In an interview, she casually remarked that missing the prom was no big deal because she had more important things to focus on, like winning the Solheim Cup for Europe. For many young athletes, skipping a major life event like prom might have been a tough decision, but for Hull, it was just another day at the office. This matter-of-fact attitude was one of the first signs that Hull wasn't your typical teenager, and it hinted at the kind of blunt honesty that would define her public image in the years to come. But if Hull's early remarks ruffled a few feathers, it was her on-course behavior that truly began to divide the golfing world. Hull has never hidden her frustration when things don't go her way on the course. One of the first instances of this came in 2016 when she was caught on camera throwing her club in frustration after a missed shot during the ANA Inspiration Tournament. While some fans admired her passion, others were quick to criticize her for what they saw as poor sportsmanship. And this wouldn't be the last time Hull let her emotions get the better of her during a high-stakes competition. Her reputation for being fiery on the course grew with each tournament. Critics pointed out that Hull's behavior was at odds with the decorum expected of professional golfers, particularly in the women's game. But supporters defended her, arguing that her raw emotion and competitive drive were precisely what the sport needed. After all, why should golfers, especially women, be expected to suppress their feelings on the course? Hull herself has always been unapologetic, stating that she plays with her heart on her sleeve and doesn't plan on changing anytime soon. Yet it wasn't just her on-course antics that fueled the controversy. Hull's candid interviews and unfiltered comments also stirred the pot. During one interview, when asked about the pressure of living up to her early success, Hull replied with her trademark bluntness, "I don't really care what people think, I just want to win." This no-nonsense approach to her career made her stand out, but it also rubbed some people the wrong way. Many athletes are careful with their words, especially when talking to the media, but Hull wasn't interested in playing that game. She spoke her mind, and while that won her a legion of fans who appreciated her honesty, it also made her a target for criticism from those who felt she wasn't showing the proper respect for the traditions of the sport. The early years of Hull's career were filled with moments like these, instances where her passion and personality overshadowed overshadowed her achievements. For every tournament win, there seemed to be a headline about something Hull had said or done that left people divided. Some called her behavior immature, while others saw it as a sign of a young player unafraid to disrupt the status quo. Whatever your opinion, one thing was clear: Charley Hull wasn't going to fit into anyone's mold, and that was only the beginning of her controversial journey through the world of golf. As Charley Hull's career progressed, so did her reputation for letting her emotions take center stage on the golf course. While many top athletes are praised for their ability to keep calm under pressure, Hull's approach was different. She didn't hide her frustration, and in some ways, that made her stand out even more. If things weren't going her way during a round, you could see it on her face, and sometimes in her actions. One of the most notable examples of this occurred at the 2019 Evian Championship. Hull, already irritated by what she felt were slow play conditions, lost her patience after a bad putt on the 12th hole. She flung her putter down and gave it a kick, an act that instantly grabbed the attention of fans, commentators, and social media alike. The incident sparked a wave of reactions. Many were quick to label it as immature and unsportsmanlike. Others, however, saw it as a raw display of emotion from a player who wears her heart on her sleeve. This wasn't the first time Hull had been accused of letting her emotions get the better of her. Back in 2017 at the Women's British Open, Hull slammed her club into the ground after a frustrating shot. To her critics, it was another example of her lack of discipline and composure, but to her supporters, this was simply part of what made Hull such a captivating figure. While other golfers might have grumbled under their breath or kept their frustrations hidden, Hull's reactions were out in the open for everyone to see. Her willingness to express herself, both positively and negatively, is a major reason why she has such a devoted following. Hull herself has always been unapologetic about her outbursts, stating in interviews that she's an emotional player and that sometimes those emotions can spill over. "I don't like losing, simple as that," she once said. "I play with passion, and I'm not going to apologize for that." To Hull, showing emotion wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a reflection of her competitive spirit. But in a sport where tradition and restraint are highly valued, her outbursts continued to divide opinion. What's interesting is how Hull's outbursts are often contrasted with similar actions from male golfers. Critics point out that when male golfers show frustration by throwing clubs or cursing under their breath, it's often seen as a display of passion or competitiveness. But when Hull does the same, it's viewed as a lack of professionalism. This double standard has followed her throughout her career, and while it's fueled much of the controversy around her, it has also sparked an important conversation about the expectations placed on female athletes in golf. Charley Hull's on-course outbursts were one thing, but her public disputes took the controversy to another level. Known for speaking her mind, Hull has never shied away from a verbal sparring match, whether it's with a fellow player, a journalist, or even a fan. While many athletes try to stay out of the drama, Hull often finds herself right in the middle of it, willingly or not. One of the most talked about public feuds came in 2021 when Hull had a heated exchange with fellow golfer Mel Reid during the Solheim Cup. The two had previously been teammates for Europe, but tensions boiled over when Reid criticized Hull's performance, claiming she wasn't pulling her weight in the team matches. Hull didn't take the comments lightly, firing back in an interview and calling Reid's accusations unfounded and disrespectful. The spat quickly made headlines, with many in the golf world choosing sides. Some agreed with Reid, suggesting Hull's form had dipped, while others felt that Reid was out of line for publicly calling out her teammate. The feud with Reid wasn't the only public dispute Hull found herself in. At the 2020 AIG Women's Open, Hull was involved in a public disagreement with a tournament official over slow play penalties. Hull, who had been vocal about her dislike for slow play, was penalized for taking too long between shots. Rather than accepting the ruling, Hull lashed out, criticizing the officials and stating that the penalty was unfair. Her remarks made headlines, with some accusing her of disrespecting the rules of the game. Others, however, admired Hull's willingness to stand up for herself, even if it meant clashing with authority. And then there are the countless interactions on social media, where Hull has never been shy about responding to critics and fans alike. Whether it's defending herself against negative comments or engaging in heated discussions about her performances, Hull's social media presence has only added fuel to the controversy surrounding her. Unlike many athletes who steer clear of online disputes, Hull seems to thrive in the back and forth, often using her platform to address controversies head-on. These public disputes have only deepened Hull's reputation as a divisive figure. To some, her willingness to speak her mind is refreshing, a sign that she's not afraid to challenge the status quo. But to others, these confrontations paint a picture of a player who's too easily rattled and quick to engage in unnecessary drama. Whatever the case may be, Hull's words have become as much a part of her public persona as her golf game, and they've played a key role in shaping the narrative around her career. If there's one thing that's clear about Charley Hull's career, it's that the media has played a significant role in amplifying her controversies. From the moment she stepped onto the professional stage, Hull's every move has been scrutinized, analyzed, and often sensationalized. While her natural talent on the golf course should have been the primary focus, it seems that her fiery personality and off-course drama have consistently dominated the headlines. Part of this can be attributed to the nature of modern sports media. In today's world, controversy sells, and Hull's career has provided plenty of material for journalists and commentators. Her on-course outbursts, public disputes, and unfiltered remarks are exactly the kind of content that keeps people clicking, sharing, and debating, and the media has been more than willing to capitalize on that. From tabloid-style coverage of her feuds with other players to in-depth think pieces about her place in the sport, Hull has been the subject of endless discussion, often for reasons that have little to do with her actual performances. What's particularly interesting is how the media's portrayal of Hull has shifted over the years. Early in her career, she was often framed as a young prodigy, someone who was set to revolutionize the game. But as the controversies piled up, the narrative changed. Instead of being celebrated for her accomplishments, Hull found herself labeled as a troublemaker or a bad girl of golf, with her mistakes often blown out of proportion. The media was quick to highlight her on-course meltdowns and public disputes, often overshadowing her successes on the course. Hull has acknowledged the media's role in shaping her public image, stating in interviews that she's aware of how certain moments get taken out of context or exaggerated for headlines. "They love to make a big deal out of everything I say or do," she once remarked. "I've learned to deal with it, but it can get frustrating when they focus more on the drama than the golf." Despite this, Hull hasn't tried to change her personality or play into the media's expectations. If anything, she's doubled down on being herself, even if that means more headlines about her fiery temper or blunt remarks. The media's role in Hull's controversies also speaks to a broader issue in the way female athletes are covered compared to their male counterparts. As mentioned earlier, male golfers who display similar levels of emotion or engage in public disputes often receive more favorable coverage, with their actions being interpreted as signs of competitiveness. Hull, on the other hand, is frequently criticized for behaviors that would be excused or even celebrated by a male athlete. This double standard has fueled much of the controversy around Hull, with the media often playing a key role in shaping the narrative that surrounds her. I would say that the media's portrayal of Hull has both helped and hurt her career. While the constant coverage has kept her in the spotlight, it has also contributed to her reputation as one of the sport's most divisive figures. But for Charley Hull, who's never been interested in fitting into the mold of a traditional golfer, the media attention is just another part of the game she refuses to play by anyone else's rules. And as long as she continues to be herself, there's no doubt that the media will continue to fuel the controversy surrounding her. Now, Charley Hull has never been one to shy away from controversy, and when it comes to defending her actions, she's as bold as ever. Whether it's on-course frustrations, public disputes, or media criticism, Hull has always stood firm in her belief that her emotions and reactions are part of what makes her unique as an athlete. Rather than offering apologies or trying to fit into a more acceptable mold, Hull has consistently defended her authenticity. In interviews, she's often acknowledged that she can be fiery, but she refuses to see this as a flaw. "I'm passionate about the game," she said more than once, and that passion sometimes boils over. For Hull, the key issue isn't her emotional outbursts, but the way people react to them, where men's aggressive actions are often seen as competitive spirit, but women are labeled as unprofessional for similar behavior. In this way, her outbursts have become not just personal expressions, but symbolic of a larger issue within the sport. Hull has also been vocal about how the media's portrayal of her has been skewed. In her eyes, the focus on her outbursts and disputes detracts from her actual achievements on the course. "People forget that I'm here to play golf, not just to be the subject of headlines," she said. Despite the media frenzy, Hull remains unapologetic about her career and the way she's conducted herself. For her, it's a matter of staying true to who she is and not letting the noise around her dictate how she behaves. One of Hull's strongest defenses has been her ability to connect with her fans, particularly younger viewers who appreciate her no-nonsense attitude. In an era where athletes are often expected to be polished and media-trained, Hull's raw, unfiltered response responses feel like a breath of fresh air. Her candidness has helped her build a devoted fan base that respects her refusal to play by traditional rules. To these fans, Hull isn't just a golfer. She's a trailblazer who refuses to be boxed in by outdated standards. This unapologetic attitude has defined Hull's approach to controversy from the very beginning. "I'm here to play my game," she once said. "People can say what they want, but I'm not changing for anyone." In defending her actions, Hull has shown that she's not just willing to embrace the controversy, she's willing to confront it head-on. Now that we have explored the many layers of Charley Hull's career, the emotional outbursts, the public disputes, and the media portrayal, it begs the question, is Charley Hull really controversial, or has she simply been misunderstood? There's no doubt that Hull's personality sets her apart in the world of professional golf. Her refusal to conform to the sport's unwritten rules of decorum has made her a polarizing figure, and her fiery passion often leads to headlines that overshadow her immense talent. But is that enough to truly label her as controversial? For many, Hull's willingness to speak her mind and express her frustrations is a sign of authenticity in a sport that can sometimes feel rigid and restrained. Her emotional reactions aren't acts of rebellion. They're simply part of who she is, both as an athlete and as a person. The media's role in amplifying Hull's behavior can't be ignored either. Time and again, her outbursts and disputes have been magnified, sometimes at the expense of celebrating her actual accomplishments. It's easy to get caught up in the narrative that Hull is a troublemaker when the media consistently frames her that way. But take a step back, and you see a young woman who's passionate about her craft, fiercely competitive, and unafraid to challenge the norms of her sport. In that sense, maybe the controversy surrounding her says more about golf's traditional expectations than it does about Hull herself. At the heart of Hull's story is a player who refuses to compromise her identity, even when it puts her at odds with the establishment. Her raw emotions, candid interviews, and willingness to confront criticism head-on have made her a target for controversy, but they've also made her a beloved figure for fans who appreciate her authenticity. Hull isn't afraid to be herself, and in a world where so many athletes are encouraged to conform, that's perhaps what makes her truly stand out. So, what do you think? Is Charley Hull really controversial? Perhaps the answer lies not in the incidents themselves, but in the lens through which they're viewed. To some, she's a rebel disrupting the status quo. To others, she's simply a passionate player who refuses to apologize for her intensity. Either way, Hull's legacy will be defined not by the controversies, but by the impact she's had on the game and the conversations she's sparked along the way. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Until next time.